The envelope was the color of old bone and smelled faintly of rain and the hospital, antiseptic and lemon, though it had never been near either. My name was written in a hand I had not seen in 27 years, the slant of the R, the impatient loop of the Y. I sat at the kitchen table with the kettle still warm and the city humming outside, and I read. It was from Mara. She had been gone 12 years when the letter arrived. Gone in the way people are gone when the world decides they are no longer necessary. A small paragraph in the paper, a borrowed eulogy, a photograph that did not look like her. I had folded her absence into my life like a fitted sheet, neat, necessary, and never quite smooth. I had not expected her handwriting to return me to the rawness of the first winter we met, when we traded cigarettes for stories and believed we could outrun the shape of our own mistakes. The letter began with a date I recognized, the night we left the river, and then moved into instructions, precise and oddly domestic. Do 3 things for me. Find the blue mug with the chip on the rim. Put it on the windowsill where the light hits it at noon. Leave a note under the 3rd floorboard from the stove. Say only, I forgive you. Go to the river at dusk. Bring nothing but your coat. There was no signature, only a smudge of ink where she had pressed too hard, as if the pen had tried to keep her from leaving. I read the list twice, then a 3rd time, as if repetition could make the paper less treacherous. The blue mug had been mine once. I had smashed it in a fit of anger the year we stopped speaking. The floorboard was the one I had pried up to hide the money we never used. The river, God, the river, was the place where we had decided, in a fit of bravado and fear, to end something neither of us could name. The instructions were small, domestic things that required no explanation and yet demanded everything. They were a map back to a life I had been avoiding by keeping busy. Work, errands, the polite grief of anniversaries. Mara had always been precise. Even in the ways she left instructions. I told myself I would not go. I told myself the letter was a cruel joke, a forgery, a mistake. I put the envelope in the drawer with the batteries and the spare keys and made tea that tasted of nothing. But the next morning, at noon, the light on the windowsill felt like a summons. I found the blue mug in the back of a box of mismatched dishes, its chip like a missing tooth, and set it where the sun would find it. The light made the glaze look younger, as if the mug remembered being whole. Under the 3rd floorboard, I left a note on a scrap of paper torn from a grocery list. My hand shook. I wrote the words slowly, as if each letter might be a bridge. I forgive you. The act of writing it felt like stepping off a curb into cold water. It was not forgiveness for her. She had been forgiven in the small, private ways we forgive the dead. But for myself, for the long ledger of things I had counted and never balanced. I slid the note into the hollow and pressed the board back into place. The house made the same small creak it had always made, as if acknowledging the transaction. At dusk, I walked to the river with nothing but my coat and the memory of her laugh tucked under my ribs. The city folded into the riverbank. The distant clatter of a tram, the smell of frying fish, a child's voice calling a dog. The water was a black ribbon, indifferent and patient. I stood where we had stood years ago, where the reeds had whispered and the moon had been a promise we could not keep. I did not know what I expected. Applause from the past, a letter that would explain everything, a sudden absolution. Instead, a woman with a stroller paused and asked if I could hold the baby for a moment while she tied a shoe. I took the small, warm weight into my arms and felt the steady, uncomplicated trust of it. The baby smelled of milk and soap and the future. For a moment, the river was only water and the city only light. When the woman returned, she smiled at me with the kind of gratitude that does not require history. "Thank you," she said, and the words were ordinary and enough. On the walk home, the letter in my pocket felt lighter. Mara had not written to punish me or to reopen old wounds. She had written to set a small, precise task that would force me to move through the rooms of our shared past and leave something kinder behind. The instructions were not a map to her, but a map to me. At the kitchen table that night, I brewed tea and set the blue mug in front of me. The chip caught the lamplight and threw it back like a small, honest star. I thought of the note under the floorboard and the baby's breath against my wrist, and the way forgiveness had arrived not as a thunderclap, but as a sequence of tiny, deliberate acts. I folded Mara's letter along its original creases and placed it inside the mug. It fit like a secret. I did not expect to feel lighter, only more honest. The house hummed around me, ordinary and patient. Outside, the river kept its slow, indifferent course. I did the 3 things because she asked me to, and because I had been waiting for permission to be less afraid of my own hands. The letter did not explain why she had written it, or how she had known I would still have the blue mug. It did not need to. It was, in the end, a small kindness from someone who had once loved me enough to leave instructions for my return.